Hey friends, welcome back. We negotiate in almost every aspect of our lives, whether it's for help with chores at home, a raise at work, or better terms when buying a house. Negotiation is clearly important, but how do we do it well? Most people negotiate with positional bargaining, which is basically a tug of war. If you're looking to rent a house that is asking for $5,000 per month, you might bargain for a lower price by offering $4,500 with hopes to meet somewhere in the middle. There are two problems with this approach. First, it tends to produce lose-lose outcomes. If you bargain too hard, then you might damage the renting relationship. But if you're too nice, then you end up with an outcome that you're not too happy with. Second, this method of negotiation tends to be slow, as both parties want to drag their feet on making concessions toward a resolution, because doing so would only produce pressure on them to yield even further. So, is there a better way to negotiate? Today, we'll see 5 principles from the book, Getting to Yes, on how you can not only negotiate win-win agreements that stick, but how you can also do so in a complex world with power and information dynamics. Let's crack into it. Number 1, win-win options. One big reason why negotiations get stuck is because most people form positions and get entrenched in these positions without considering all of their interests and all of the ways to achieve these interests. To resolve this, we need to focus on the interests of both parties and not their positions. Let's say you are trying to decide with your partner on what to do for date night. You might suggest eating out at a nice restaurant because you want to get out of the house, but your partner might prefer to cook a meal at home instead in the interest of saving money. By focusing on your interests of wanting to get out of the house and save money, you might actually come up with win-win options that you both want that are not initially what you both had in mind, such as having a picnic under the night sky or eating out at a more affordable restaurant. In addition, you guys will also be able to point out interests that the other party might not have considered yet. Now, of course, that's an easy one because both interests were compatible. But this is actually even more important when interests are conflicting. Even if both parties want the same thing, differences across values and expectations might present win-win options. For example, if a renter values cash on hand, while their landlord values total future cash flows, a possible win-win option might be to offer a rental discount in exchange for a longer lease. Or if a salesperson due for a raise expects to outperform their sales targets, but his boss expects him to only meet his sales targets, then both parties are likely to prefer raising the performance bonus as opposed to the base salary. At this stage, focus on generating multiple win-win options as opposed to trying to push a single solution. You can come up with many different ways to meet different interests or vary the strength and scope of your options. For example, you might want to explore a non-binding and partial agreement as opposed to a binding, comprehensive one that we initially think about. Along the way, be sure to enlist the other side's feedback and ask a lot of whys and why nots. This will deepen your grasp of their interests and help you to better generate win-win options. Number 2, objective decision making. With a bunch of win-win options on hand, it's time to decide on a single solution. To do this, we need all parties to agree on an objective set of facts and criteria upon which a decision can be made. Agreeing on a common set of facts may sound obvious, but in reality, people often try to bargain on the basis of perception and emotions. Let's say you are negotiating a raise at work. You may feel that you've been doing great, but your boss may feel that your performance has been average. These different perceptions are likely to make any agreement on fair compensation impossible. This is likely to lead to a lose-lose outcome, where both parties walk away feeling that the other is unreasonable. much better to first align on a common set of facts, such as whether you're performing greater responsibilities or value add on the job before proceeding. Once you agree on the facts, you still have to come up with an objective set of criteria to use in your negotiations. This may be based on fair standards or fair procedures. Let's say you're trying to split a collection of 8 cars with your partner. A fair standards approach will be to split the cars based on fair value, which may be based on the original cost less depreciation, or maybe how much you might be able to sell the cars for. Alternatively, you could split the cars based on fair procedures, such as having one partner split the 8 cars into groups of 4 and 4, and having the other partner choose which of the groups they prefer first. Either way, these objective criteria produce decisions efficiently and amicably. So we see that in a perfect world, you would come up with multiple win-win options and then apply objective decision making to agree on a single way forward. Of course, reality is much messier than that. In real negotiations, there are many complexities to consider, such as people, power, and information dynamics. So for our next 3 ideas, we'll go through how to manage these head on. Quick pause. Hey everyone, thanks for watching and I hope you're enjoying it so far. If you've picked up new ideas on how to negotiate better in your life, then please give this video a like. I really appreciate it and it helps out a lot. Thanks for watching once again, and let's move on to the next one. Number 3, negotiation jujitsu. While you may be engaging in principled negotiation with win-win options and objective decision making, the other party might be engaging in positional bargaining. And while you may be attacking the problem, the other party may be attacking you. In such situations, you can employ negotiation jujitsu, where you sidestep the energy from the other party's attack and deflect it towards solving the problem. There are 3 main forms of attack to prepare for. If they put their foot down on a position, you can use that to listen in for their interests to help you generate better win-win options that they would find hard to refuse. If they attack your ideas, you can use that to invite advice on how you can better improve the win-win options and objective decision-making processes that you're proposing. And if they attack you, you can use that to recast it as an attack on the problem to underline the importance of finding a solution. For example, if your life partner accuses you of neglecting them, it is far more productive to channel this toward figuring out how you can better improve your relationship as opposed to defensively pushing back against their claims. Friction can get things heated, so be very conscious to separate the people from the problem. Empathy of the other party's perceptions and emotions will help you to steer any aggression in the right direction. Communication is the basis of negotiation, so listen actively and speak to be understood. It is key to avoid getting entangled in personal conflict if you want to progress toward an agreement. By employing negotiation jujitsu skillfully, we get the best of both worlds. You not only preserve the relationship, but you also redirect the other party's energy towards solving the problem. However, what happens if you get in the ring with someone far more powerful than you? To resolve power dynamics, we need to pack along Principle 4, having a Plan B. In the book, B stands for Best Alternative to a Negotiated Agreement, though you can think of it just as a Plan B if negotiations fall through. This is especially important when you're negotiating with someone with much more bargaining power than you. A good example of this is if you are in a hot housing market. Sellers are likely to refuse to negotiate and may even apply further pressure on you by raising the ask price if they have multiple interested buyers. So how does having a Plan B help? First, it prevents you from being over or under-committed to negotiation. For example, in that hot housing market, you may feel pressure to cave in to the seller's escalating demands. However, If you're only looking to buy in order to upgrade from an existing house that you own, then your plan B might not be so bad. Because even if you pay more for the house price if house prices rise, you will also earn more from the house sale and therefore offset the greater cost. In this case, there is no need to be overcommitted to reaching an agreement because of your decent plan B. On the other hand, if this is your first home and you are keen to buy the house because you want to move nearer to certain good schools, then your plan B is significantly worse than an agreement. In this case, you know that you must take each home listing in the area seriously and avoid being undercommitted to negotiations. So we see that being clear of your plan B enables you to negotiate in a way that brings the best expected outcome for you. This is a far better benchmark for any proposed agreement than merely having a bottom line, which is often arbitrary and rigid. Clarity of your plan B also helps you to improve your plan B. For example, instead of fixating on a certain area due to a certain set of good schools, you might look into other areas with other good schools and so give you more options to buy houses in other areas. Also, it helps you to consider the other side's plan B. A seller looking to sell their house to move for work is likely to be more motivated than one who owns 10 other investment properties. The better the seller's plan B, the less you can expect from the negotiations. So we can resolve people dynamics with negotiation jujitsu and power dynamics by having a plan B. But what about information dynamics? This leads us to number 5, partial disclosure. Good faith negotiation does not require you to reveal your entire hand to the other party. This applies fairly to both sides of the table. There are 3 dimensions you can withhold information: facts, interests, and authority. Facts are the most obvious one, but do remember that blatant lies are likely to damage the relationship, even if it is the other party's responsibility to conduct due diligence. As far as possible, neither party should suffer an unpleasant surprise after a deal is struck. This works both ways, so be sure to verify factual assertions made by the other party to avoid being cheated. Another information dynamic is the disclosure of interests. On one hand, you need to reveal what you want to get what you want, but on the other hand, you don't want the other party to know how much you are willing to give up for what you want. This applies more for complex negotiations such as in business, but for more simple transactions such as the property sale, this is also one reason why the property seller will never tell you if he's cash strapped. Part of your job as a negotiator is to figure out where the other party's true interests lie, and that's why it's not so easy to create win-win options. Last, disclosure of authority. When negotiating, keep your authority over the decision ambiguous and match the other party's authority where possible. If you have more authority to make concessions than the person sitting across the table, then you will make more concessions. For example, let's say you spend some time in negotiating with a house seller and you finally agree on a price. All of a sudden, the house seller says that he needs to check with his wife, and at which point you know that he's going to come back asking for just a little bit more to extract a little bit more out of you because he knows roughly what price you are willing to pay. If this happens, insist on reciprocity. Even if you're single and you don't have a spouse that you're going to say you're going to check with, you can always say that you might change your mind when you sleep on it. So we have 5 principles for negotiation. As a quick recap, we saw how win-win options and objective decision-making form the basis for principled negotiation, and how you might employ negotiation jujitsu, having a plan B, and partial disclosure to achieve the best outcome for you. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you found new ideas about negotiation in it, please remember to hit the like button. I'll see you in the next video.